We found your number on a woman's emergency contact. She's in premature labor with twins. Both lives are at risk. The phone vibrated in Kwon Minho's pocket during what was supposed to be the defining moment of his legacy. He stood at the altar of the Shilla Hotel Seoul, wearing a bespoke Brioni tuxedo that cost more than most people's cars, about to marry Min Seo-yun, heiress to the Min pharmaceutical empire. The merger marriage his father had engineered for 18 months. Every flash, every lens, every society reporter in Seoul was trained on him. 500 guests from Korea's most powerful families filled the ballroom like witnesses to a coronation. His father's triumphant expression. His mother's diamond-hard satisfaction. Seo-yun's perfectly composed smile as she waited for him to secure their family's future with two simple words. I do. But Minho couldn't look away from the unknown international number lighting up his phone screen. Minho SSI. Seo-yun whispered, her voice tight with confusion. What are you? He answered it. Right there. In front of everyone. This is Kwon Minho. Mr. Kwon, this is Seoul National University Hospital, Labor and Delivery. We have a patient here, Kidia. She's 32 weeks pregnant with twin boys and experiencing severe preeclampsia. She collapsed in our parking garage 20 minutes ago. Your contact information is listed as her emergency contact. We need immediate consent for emergency cesarean section. Are you family, sir? We're running out of time. The universe fractured. Kidia. 32 weeks. Twins. Pause with me right here. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and smash that subscribe button. This story is about to get intense, and I need your support to keep bringing you these emotional journeys. The same Amma who'd walked away 9 months ago without looking back. The same woman he'd let walk away because his family had given him an ultimatum he was too weak to fight. The woman whose face he saw every morning in the mirror, every night in his dreams, every time he signed another soulless business contract, every time he pretended this arranged marriage was anything but a gilded cage. Sir? Mr. Kwon? We really need your answer. The baby's heart rates are dropping. Where is she? His voice came out shattered, raw. Which hospital? Seoul National, Jangmyeogu. Emergency obstetrics, 4th floor. Sir, we need consent for. Minho dropped the phone. He looked at Seo-yun. At his father, whose face was already darkening with rage. At his mother, whose eyes promised consequences. At the 500 witnesses to his perfect, proper, suffocating future. Then he ran. Kwon Minho! His father's roar shook the crystal chandeliers. Kwon Minho, you stop right now! Do you hear me? But Minho was already gone, his Italian leather shoes slipping on polished marble as he sprinted toward the exit, ripping off his bow tie, his grandfather's cufflinks scattering across the floor like broken promises. Behind him, the wedding collapsed into chaos. Camera flashes exploded. Gasps turned to shouts. His mother's shriek of fury. Seo-yun's confusion morphing into humiliation. The whispers that would destroy the Kwon family's carefully constructed image. None of it mattered. Amma was in Seoul, fighting for her life and the lives of his sons, and she was doing it alone. Their story had begun 11 months ago in the most unlikely place, a sterile conference room at the Global Finance Summit in Singapore. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kidia, Senior Consultant with Accra International Finance. Today we'll be discussing ethical investment frameworks in emerging African markets. Minho looked up from his tablet, irritated. He was sitting in the back row of the breakout session, surrounded by eager junior executives who actually needed this presentation. He did not. He'd attended the summit because his father demanded visibility, not because he cared about ethical frameworks. The woman at the front of the room made him reconsider everything. Deep brown skin that seemed to glow under the harsh fluorescent lights. Natural hair styled in an elegant twist that somehow made the boring hotel conference room feel alive. She wore a vibrant Ken-pattern blazer over a crisp white blouse, and her eyes, sharp, intelligent, unimpressed, seemed to catalog every person in the room with a single sweep. She was absolutely stunning. But Minho was in no mood to appreciate it. He had 3 more pointless sessions to endure, a merger negotiation to prepare for, and his father's latest lecture about finding an appropriate match, still ringing in his ears. Then Alma spoke again, and everything changed. "Let me be direct," she said, her accent a beautiful blend of British precision and West African warmth. "Most of you are here because you see Africa as the next exploitable frontier. You're wrong. And if that's your approach, I'm about to waste an hour of your time." Miho's finger paused over his phone screen. "Ethical investment isn't charity. It's not feel-good corporate responsibility window dressing. It's the only sustainable model for long-term returns in markets where communities remember exactly how foreign capital has destroyed them before." Her smile was sharp as a blade. "So if you're here to learn how to extract wealth while performing ethics, there's the door." No one moved. Miho sat forward in his chair. And for the first time in his carefully orchestrated life, Kwon Minho, dutiful son, future CEO, prisoner of legacy, felt something like freedom stir in his chest. Miho's driver was already pulling up, muscle memory from years of choreographed exits. But Minho shoved past him and threw himself behind the wheel of his own Maybach. The engine roared to life as his phone exploded with incoming calls. Father. Mother. Seo-yun. The wedding planner. 23 missed calls in 40 seconds. He silenced everything and drove. Seoul's traffic laws became suggestions. He wove through lanes like water finding cracks, his hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel, his mind fracturing into 1,000 terrible images. Alma unconscious. Alma bleeding. Alma dying alone because he'd been too much of a coward to fight for her when it mattered. The passenger door flew open at a red light. Seo-yun climbed in, still wearing her wedding dress, mascara streaked down her face like war paint. She must have run after him, grabbed a taxi, tracked his phone. Her family had money and resources and apparently very fast reflexes. "Drive," she said, her voice ice over fury. "We're going to finish this conversation. Get out." "No." She slammed the door as the light turned green. Minho accelerated, and she braced herself against the dashboard. "Who is she? Who is Amankidia?" "None of your business. You just destroyed both our families in front of 500 people. You made me look like a fool on what was supposed to be our wedding day. So yes, Minho, it is absolutely my business." Her voice cracked, and he heard the humiliation bleeding through the anger. "Is she pregnant with your child?" "Children. Twins." The words tasted like confession and salvation. "And she's dying." Seo-yun went silent for 3 blocks. "How long?" she finally asked. 9 months since I last saw her. 11 since we met. So during our engagement. Not a question. An accusation? Before the engagement was announced. Before my father told me I had no choice. Minho ran a red light, barely missing a taxi. Before I became the coward who let her walk away. Did you love her? The question hit like a bullet. Minho's throat closed around the answer, but Seo-yun was watching him with something that looked almost like sympathy beneath her rage. "I still do," he said quietly. "I never stopped." Seo-yun laughed, bitter and broken. "At least you're honest now." She stared out the window at the city blurring past. "I knew, you know. I always knew you didn't want this. But I thought maybe, eventually, we could build something real. Make the best of what our families forced on us." Seo-yun. "I hope she lives," she said and meant it. "I hope your sons live. And I hope you're prepared for what your father is going to do to you." Seoul National loomed ahead, all glass and steel and emergency lights. Minho abandoned the Maybach in a no-parking zone, doors still open, engine running. Seo-yun didn't follow. She just sat in the passenger seat, a bride without a groom, and watched him sprint toward the entrance. The 4th-floor emergency obstetrics unit smelled like antiseptic and fear. A nurse intercepted him at the desk. "Amakidia," he gasped. "I'm Kwon Minho. You called me. Where is she?" The nurse's expression said everything before her words did. "Or 3. The surgical team is prepping now, but Mr. Kwon..." She hesitated. Her blood pressure is dangerously high. The babies are in distress. We need your signature on the consent forms immediately, but I need to be clear with you about the risks. What risks? The preeclampsia is severe. There's a significant chance we may have to choose between saving her or saving the babies. The hallway tilted. If it comes to that choice, the nurse said gently, professionally, like she'd delivered this impossible question 1,000 times. We need to know your priority. Hospital policy requires her. The word ripped out of him. Save her. Always her. The nurse nodded and thrust a clipboard into his hands. Sign everywhere that's highlighted. Fast. Minho's signature had never mattered more or felt more worthless. He was signing consent forms while Amma fought for her life behind steel doors, and somewhere in Seoul, his father was already calling lawyers to write him out of the family forever. He signed anyway. The conference room in Singapore had been stifling, but Kidia's presentation made Minho forget about the recycled air and his mounting irritation with mandatory networking events. She dismantled every assumption in the room with surgical precision. You cannot apply Western capital models to African markets and expect anything but resentment and failure, she said, clicking to a slide showing failed development projects across 3 countries. These communities don't need saviors. They need partners who respect that they've been building economies for millennia while your ancestors were still figuring out basic agriculture. Someone in the front row, an American hedge fund manager, raised his hand. With all due respect, Ms. Nkidia, the data shows that foreign investment has dramatically increased GDP across. GDP. Amma's smile could cut glass. Yes, let's talk about GDP. A metric that measures economic activity but not wealth distribution, not environmental devastation, not cultural erosion, not whether a single mother in Kumasi can actually afford to feed her children despite her country's impressive growth numbers. She advanced the slide. This is extractive capitalism wearing a diversity statement. I'm here to teach you something different. Minho found himself smiling for the first time in months. After the session, he waited while eager executives swarmed Amma with business cards and investment pitches. She handled each with practiced grace, her responses polite but non-committal. When the crowd finally thinned, Minho approached. That was the most honest hour I've spent at this entire summit, he said in English. She looked up from organizing her materials, and her eyes, deep brown and impossibly sharp, assessed him in a single glance. Let me guess. You're here because Daddy sent you to make connections and you're bored out of your mind. Minho laughed, caught off guard. That obvious? You spent the first 15 minutes on your phone. Then you actually started listening. Which means either I said something that threatened your portfolio, or you realized I might be saying something true. She extended her hand. I'm Nkidia. And you are? Kwon Minho. Her handshake was firm, confident. And you're right. My father sent me. I've been bored for approximately 6 hours. But your presentation wasn't threatening, it was necessary. Necessary. She tested the word, skeptical. Most people in your position say interesting when they mean naive. Most people in my position are cowards who've never questioned the system that benefits them. The words came out sharper than he intended, carrying weight he hadn't meant to reveal. Amma's expression shifted, curiosity replacing caution. And you're different? I don't know yet, Minho admitted. But I'd like to be. Something flickered across her face, recognition, maybe, or the beginning of respect. Well, that's the most honest thing a billionaire has said to me all week. Is that what I am? A billionaire? He smiled, self-deprecating. I thought I was just really well-dressed debt. She laughed then, real and unguarded, and the sound did something dangerous to his carefully constructed defenses. You're funny. I wasn't expecting funny. You weren't expecting anything. You saw the suit and the family name and made entirely reasonable assumptions. Fair. She tilted her head, studying him. So prove me wrong, Kwon Minho. Buy me coffee and tell me why someone with your resources actually cares about ethical frameworks instead of just quarterly profits. They found a cafe in the hotel lobby, and coffee became 3 hours of conversation that felt like coming up for air after a lifetime underwater. Alma talked about growing up in Accra, watching foreign companies promise development and deliver exploitation. About studying finance in London and realizing the system was designed to concentrate wealth, not distribute it. About returning home determined to build something different. Minho talked about succession pressure, about his father's empire built on ruthless efficiency and strategic marriages, about feeling like an asset rather than a person, about the suffocating expectation that he would inherit a kingdom he'd never chosen. You could walk away, Alma said, stirring her third cappuccino. You have the education, the connections, the skill set. Build something yourself. And do what? Disappoint 3 generations of Kwons who sacrificed everything to build this legacy? Or honor them by being brave enough to choose your own path? Her eyes held his, unflinching. Legacy isn't just what you inherit, Minho. It's what you create. What you stand for when no one's watching. No one had ever spoken to him like that, like he was capable of more than obedience. Like his choices mattered beyond balance sheets and stock prices. Have dinner with me, he said, surprising himself. Tomorrow. Let me prove I'm not just another entitled heir pretending to care. Alma set down her cup, her smile cautious but warm. One dinner. And if you spend the whole time talking about investment portfolios, I'm leaving. Deal. That dinner became 2, then 4, then stolen hours between conference sessions where they debated everything from microfinance models to the ethics of inheritance to whether pineapple belonged on pizza. She challenged every assumption he'd built his life on. He made her laugh in ways that seemed to surprise her, like she'd forgotten joy was allowed. On the last night of the conference, they stood on the hotel balcony overlooking Singapore's skyline, and Minho realized with terrifying clarity that he was falling in love with a woman who represented everything his family would never accept. I don't want this to end, he said quietly. Alma turned to him, the city lights reflecting in her eyes. Then don't let it. He kissed her under foreign stars, and for the first time in his carefully orchestrated life, Kwon Minho chose something that was entirely, dangerously his own. Seoul in autumn became their secret universe. Alma extended her consulting contract with a Korean tech firm, a convenient excuse that let her stay for 3 months. Minho told his father he was focusing on international partnerships. Neither was entirely lying, but the truth they were building existed in the spaces between official meetings and business dinners. They learned to be invisible together. Not at the restaurants his family frequented or the clubs where society photographers lurked, but in the narrow alleys of Itaewon where no one recognized the Kwon heir in jeans and a baseball cap. In Pojangmaka tents where they ate tteokbokki and drank soju like university students. In Alma's modest rental apartment in Seongsadong where she'd hung Ghanaian Kent cloth on the walls and filled the kitchen with spices that made the small space smell like home. Teach me, she said one evening, after Minho had spent an hour attempting to explain the complexity of Korean honorifics. She was curled against him on her second-hand couch, her natural hair loose and wild, her laptop balanced on her knees. Teach you what? Your language? Your culture? All the things I need to understand about the man I'm falling in love with. The words hung in the air between them, brave and terrifying. Minho's hand stilled on her shoulder. You're falling in love with me? Don't act surprised. You knew the moment we kissed in Singapore. She turned to face him, her expression fierce and vulnerable. I don't do casual, Minho. I don't do secrets that last forever. So if this is just a rebellion phase for you. He kissed her silent, pouring everything he couldn't say into the contact. When they broke apart, his forehead rested against hers. Sarangi, he whispered. That's Korean for I love you. And I've wanted to say it for weeks, but I was terrified you'd realize you could do so much better. Her laugh was soft, relieved. Well, you're right about that. But I'm choosing you anyway. They built their own world after that, trading pieces of themselves like currency. Alma taught him about Ghanaian history, about the Ashanti Empire and colonialism's long shadow, about fufu and groundnut soup and the particular way her mother braided her hair before school. She played him high-life music and hip life and showed him photos of Accra's chaotic beauty, Makola markets, organized madness, Labadi Beach at sunset, her grandmother's compound where 3 generations lived in joyful proximity. Minho taught her Korean phrases beyond basic greetings, coached her through the minefield of social hierarchy, explained why his mother's obsession with lineage wasn't just snobbery but centuries of Confucian tradition. He took her to Bukshan Hanok village at dawn when tourists were scarce, to his favorite bookshop in Dihano, to the Han River at midnight where they could breathe. "Tell me your dreams," Amma said one night, lying in his arms after they'd made love in her small bed, the city humming outside her window. "Not your father's dreams for you. Yours." Minho stared at the ceiling, the question exposing parts of himself he buried. "I want to build something that matters. Not just profit margins and market dominance, but actual innovation that improves lives." His fingers traced patterns on her shoulder. "Sustainable technology. Clean energy infrastructure in developing markets. Partnership models like what you described in Singapore. Why don't you? Because the Kwon Empire doesn't pivot. It conquers. My father built everything on aggressive expansion and vertical integration. Suggesting we shift to ethical models would be like suggesting we dismantle the kingdom brick by brick. Maybe the kingdom needs dismantling." Her voice was gentle but uncompromising. "Maybe you're meant to build something better from the ruins. And betray 3 generations? Or honor them by having the courage they never did." She propped herself up on one elbow, her eyes searching his. "What scares you more, Minho? Disappointing your father or disappointing yourself?" No one had ever asked him that. No one had ever cared about the answer. He pulled her closer, breathing in the shea butter scent of her hair, and let himself imagine a future where he chose love over legacy. Where Amma stood beside him not as a secret but as a partner. Where their different worlds collided and created something beautiful instead of catastrophic. "I want you to meet my mother," Amma said suddenly, scrolling through her phone to show him a video call. "She keeps asking about the man who's making me smile at 3 in the morning Seoul time." Miho's heart lurched. "Amma. I know you can't introduce me to your family yet. But mine needs to know you exist. That this is real. That I'm not just playing around in Korea." The fear must have shown on his face because she softened, cupped his cheek with her palm. "I'm not asking you to choose yet, Minho. I'm just asking you not to hide me from everyone. Let me be real to at least one part of your world." He met her mother 2 days later via video call, a formidable woman named Akojua who grilled him in accented English about his intentions, his education, his understanding that her daughter was brilliant enough to have options and would not be anyone's secret shame. Minho answered honestly, stumbling through explanations about family pressure and cultural complications, until Akojua finally smiled. "My daughter has excellent taste but terrible timing," she said. "Take care of her, Kwon Minho. Or answer to me." After the call ended, Amma was wiping tears. "She liked you. She terrified me. Same thing in my family." She kissed him, tasting like salt and hope. "Thank you for being brave." But Minho knew he wasn't brave enough. Not yet. Because while Amma's world opened to embrace him, his own was closing like a fist, and he could feel the pressure building toward an explosion he didn't know how to stop. 3 months became 4, then 5. Their secret held, fragile and precious, until the morning Minho's father called an emergency family meeting and everything beautiful shattered. Minho made the catastrophic mistake of believing honesty would be enough. He'd rehearsed the conversation 100 times, crafting arguments about love transcending borders, about Amma's brilliance and credentials, about building a modern legacy that honored tradition without being imprisoned by it. He'd convinced himself that if he just presented it correctly, his parents would see what he saw, a woman of extraordinary intelligence, grace, and strength who made him want to be better than the dutiful heir they'd molded. He was spectacularly wrong. The family meeting was held in his father's private study at the Kwon estate in Songbukdong, all dark wood and ancestral portraits, and the weight of generations. His mother sat rigid in her hanbok, his father behind the massive desk where he'd built an empire through calculated ruthlessness. Even the air felt expensive, oppressive. Minho stood before them like a defendant awaiting verdict. Father, Mother, there's someone I need you to meet. Someone important to me. He kept his voice steady, professional. Her name is Amankidia. She's a senior finance consultant, educated at the London School of Economics, currently working with Korean firms on ethical investment frameworks. She's brilliant, accomplished, and black. His father didn't look up from the documents he was signing. African. From Ghana, specifically. We know. Did you think we wouldn't investigate? The floor tilted beneath Miho's feet. You've been spying on me? We've been protecting our family's interests. His mother's voice could freeze blood. Which apparently requires more vigilance than we thought, given your recent lack of judgment. She's not a lack of judgment. She's the woman I love. His father's pen stopped mid-signature. The silence stretched thin as wire. Love. The word dripped with contempt. You're 31 years old, Miho. Heir to a $50 billion empire. And you're playing at love like a university student with no responsibilities. He finally looked up, and his eyes held nothing but cold calculation. This ends now. Father, if you would just meet her. Meet her? His mother laughed, sharp and cruel. So she can parade her credentials and pretend she's not exactly what she is. A foreign woman with no family connections, no understanding of our culture, no ability to navigate the society you were born into? She's a consultant with impeccable qualifications. She's a phase. His father stood, and the room seemed to shrink around his authority. An embarrassing distraction that ends before you humiliate this family further. Do you have any idea what the board would say if they knew you were involved with? He paused, choosing his words like weapons. Someone so inappropriate? Inappropriate. Miho felt rage building in his chest, hot and reckless. Say what you really mean. Say you can't accept her because she's black. His mother gasped like he'd struck her. How dare you accuse us of such Western prejudice? This has nothing to do with. It has everything to do with it. Miho's voice rose despite every instinct screaming to maintain composure. You can't control who I love, and it terrifies you that I chose someone outside your carefully constructed world. We can't control you. His father moved around the desk with predatory calm. You foolish child. We control everything. Your trust fund, your position in the company, your mother's medical foundation, the hospital where your precious Alma's consulting firm does business. Should we continue? The threat landed like a physical blow. You wouldn't. Watch me. His father's smile was carved from ice. You will end this relationship immediately. You will issue a public apology for any inappropriate association. And you will proceed with the merger marriage to Min Seo-yun that we've been negotiating for 6 months. The world stopped. What marriage? The Min family controls the largest pharmaceutical network in Asia. Their daughter Seo-yun is educated, appropriate, and willing to fulfill her duty to both families. The contracts are nearly finalized. His mother stood, smoothing her hanbok with deliberate precision. You'll meet her next week. The engagement will be announced within the month. I won't do it. Then you'll lose everything. His father returned to his desk, dismissing him with a gesture. Your position, your inheritance, your future. We'll remove you from the succession entirely. Your cousin Jinho will become heir. And your little consultant will discover that her Korean contracts have mysteriously dried up, forcing her back to Ghana where she belongs. Miho's hands shook with impotent fury. You can't. We can. We have. The question is whether you'll be selfish enough to destroy her career and your family's legacy for a relationship that was never going to survive reality. His father picked up his pen, the conversation already over in his mind. You have until Sunday to end it. Cleanly. Permanently. And if I hear that you've maintained any contact after that, I'll ensure she's deported on fabricated visa violations before you can say goodbye. His mother touched his arm, her grip iron beneath silk. This is for your own good, Miho. Someday you'll thank us for saving you from a disastrous mistake. Love fades. Legacy endures. Choose wisely. They left him standing in the study, his entire world crumbling around him like ash. Miho drove to Alma's apartment in a daze, his father's threats echoing in his skull. He found her cooking dinner, dancing to Ghanaian music, radiant and completely unaware that his cowardice was about to destroy everything they'd built. She turned when she heard the door, her smile bright as sunrise. "You're early! I'm making Kantamire stew and Minho?" Her expression shifted to alarm. "What happened? What's wrong?" He couldn't make the words come. Couldn't figure out how to explain that he was about to become exactly the kind of man she'd warned him against in Singapore. The one who chose comfort over courage, legacy over love, duty over the only person who'd ever made him feel truly alive. "They know about us," he finally said. "My parents. They've known for weeks." Amma's face hardened, preparing for impact. And they've given me an ultimatum." The words tasted like betrayal. "End the relationship or lose everything. Position, inheritance, family. They've arranged a marriage. They'll destroy your career if I don't comply." The music kept playing, incongruously cheerful against the death of their future. "So this is it," Amma said quietly. Not a question. A recognition. "This is where you choose them. Amma, please. Answer me honestly, Minho." Her voice broke, but her spine stayed straight. "Right now, in this moment, are you going to fight for us, or are you going to let them win?" And in the terrible silence that followed, Minho's inability to answer told her everything she needed to know. Minho tried to buy time, and in doing so, lost everything that mattered. "Just give me a few months," he begged Amma that night, his hands gripping hers like a drowning man. "Let me figure out how to do this without destroying everyone. I'll talk to them again, I'll find leverage, You'll what, Minho?" She pulled her hands away, and the loss of contact felt like amputation. "Negotiate me like a business deal? Find the perfect moment when your parents magically stop being racist and controlling? There is no perfect moment. There's just you choosing. I'm not choosing them over you. I'm trying to protect us both. By hiding me. By keeping me a secret while you play the obedient son." Her eyes glistened, but she refused to let the tears fall. "I told you from the beginning, I don't do secrets that last forever. I won't be the woman you love in private and deny in public. What do you want me to do? Walk away from everything my family built? Let them destroy your career out of spite? I want you to be brave enough to choose love over fear." Her voice cracked. "But you're not, are you? You're going to compromise and hedge and try to make everyone happy except the woman standing right in front of you, begging you to just fight." Minho had no answer that wouldn't prove her right. So he tried the impossible, to serve two masters, to live in two worlds, to keep Amma while appeasing his family. He attended the formal introduction dinner with Min Seoyun, a pleasant woman who clearly understood this was a business arrangement. He signed preliminary merger documents while texting Amma that he loved her, that this was temporary, that she had to trust him. He was lying to everyone, including himself. Seoyun was kind about it, at least. "You don't have to pretend with me," she said over their third obligatory dinner. "I know you're in love with someone else. My parents told me to ignore it, that you'd adjust eventually. I'm sorry you're caught in this. Don't be. I agreed to this arrangement knowing exactly what it was." She sipped her wine, her expression sympathetic. "But for what it's worth, you should choose her. Before you lose her." But the machine was already in motion. His father announced the engagement at a board meeting before Minho could object. The press release went out within hours, photographs of Minho and Seoyun at charity galas, carefully curated to suggest a love story that didn't exist. Society pages exploded with congratulations and speculation about the merger dynasty. Minho saw the article before he could warn Amma. He called her 17 times. Every call went to voicemail. When he finally reached her apartment, she was packing. Systematically, methodically, her movements mechanical like she'd shut down everything that felt. "Amma, please, that announcement wasn't supposed to go out yet. I was going to tell you." "Tell me what?" She didn't stop packing, didn't even look at him. "That you got engaged to another woman while telling me you loved me? That I'm apparently the mistress in this situation, except you didn't even have the decency to make that clear? You're not the mistress. You're everything. That engagement is just paperwork, it doesn't mean. It means you chose. She finally turned, and her eyes were devastated but resolute. You chose your family's approval over my dignity. You chose their money over our future. And I understand why, I do. The pressure, the expectations, the fear of losing everything. Her voice gentled, which somehow hurt worse. But I can't love someone who won't fight for me, Minho. I won't. Don't do this. Please. Give me more time. I've given you 6 months. I've hidden in shadows, cancelled plans when your family called, pretended I didn't exist every time it was convenient for you. She zipped her suitcase with terrible finality. I'm going back to Ghana. I'm done being invisible. I'm also pregnant. The words detonated like a bomb. Minho's legs stopped working. He reached for the doorframe, the world tilting on its axis. What? 12 weeks. I found out 3 days ago. Her hand moved to her still flat stomach, protective and fierce. I was trying to figure out how to tell you, but then your engagement photos showed up in every newspaper in Seoul, so I guess the universe decided for me. Oh my God! Minho moved toward her, but she stepped back, maintaining distance. This changes everything. We don't have to do anything. I'm keeping them. I'll raise them in Accra where they'll grow up knowing their worth, not compromising themselves for people who'll never accept them. Her voice hardened. And before you say it, no, I don't want your money. No, you can't visit when it's convenient. No, you don't get to play weekend father while building your empire with your appropriate wife. Them? His brain caught up. You said them. Twins. A ghost of her old smile flickered across her face. 2 boys, apparently. The Nkidia family has a history of twins. I thought you'd want to know before I disappeared. Twins. His sons. Growing inside the woman he loved while he'd been signing engagement contracts and playing the dutiful heir. The enormity of his failure crashed over him like a wave. Come to the wedding, he heard himself say, desperate and irrational. When they announce a date. Come and object. Make a scene. Force me to choose in front of everyone. Alma looked at him with something like pity. I'm not going to your wedding, Minho. I'm not going to rescue you from a choice you're making voluntarily. If you want to be in these boys' lives, if you want to be with me, you know where Ghana is. You know my number. But I'm done begging you to choose love over fear. She picked up her suitcase and walked past him, her Kent cloth bag over her shoulder, carrying his children away from his cowardice. I love you, he said to her, retreating back, pathetic and true. She paused in the doorway without turning around. I know. That's what makes this so heartbreaking. You love me, but you love your comfort more. And that's the kind of love that destroys people. The door closed behind her. Minho stood in her empty apartment, the Kent cloth still on the walls, the scent of her shea butter still lingering, the ghost of their secret world slowly dissipating, and understood with crystal clarity that he'd just made the worst decision of his life. He told himself he'd fix it. He'd find a way to break the engagement, to stand up to his father, to fly to Accra and prove he could be the man she needed. But weeks became months, and the wedding date was set, and Minho remained paralyzed by the same fear that had cost him everything. Until a phone call at the altar forced him to finally become the man he should have been 9 months ago. Alma landed in Accra 8 hours after leaving Seoul, carrying 2 lives and the wreckage of her heart. Her mother met her at Kotoka International Airport, took one look at her daughter's face, and asked no questions. She simply wrapped Alma in the kind of embrace that meant I told you this would hurt, but I'm here anyway, and drove her home to the family compound in East Legon. The pregnancy announced itself viciously. Morning sickness that lasted all day, exhaustion that made climbing stairs feel like mountaineering, and the constant, terrifying awareness that she was growing 2 humans while falling apart emotionally. You need to tell him, her mother Akojua said 2 weeks after Alma's return, watching her daughter pick at groundnut soup she used to devour. The babies deserve to know their father, even if their father is a coward. He made his choice. Amma pushed the bowl away, nausea rising. I won't trap him with guilt or obligation. Either he wants us enough to fight, or he doesn't. Those are the only options. And if he doesn't know you need him to fight? Then he's exactly who I thought he was. The weeks crawled by with agonizing slowness. Amma threw herself into remote consulting work, building financial models from her childhood bedroom while her body transformed into something unrecognizable. The twins grew with aggressive enthusiasm. Her doctor cheerfully informed her that twin pregnancies meant double the symptoms, double the risk, double everything. Her phone stayed silent. No calls from Seoul. No desperate messages. No last-minute airport scenes where Minho burst through security declaring his love. Just silence, and the growing certainty that she was doing this alone. Have you chosen names? Her younger sister Efua asked one evening, her hand pressed against Amma's swelling belly, feeling the twins kick with increasing violence. Not yet. It feels like jinxing something. Amma didn't say what. That naming them made them real, made their father's absence more devastating, made her failure to choose a man worthy of them undeniable. Social media became torture. She'd blocked Miho's accounts, but mutual professional connections kept posting about the upcoming wedding of the year. Kwon Minho and Min Seo-yoon, merger dynasty, perfect society match. Engagement photos that looked sterile and joyless if you knew what to look for. Articles speculating about heirs and business synergies. No mention of the Ghanaian woman carrying his actual heirs while he played dress-up with his arranged bride. Amma deleted every app and focused on survival. The pregnancy complications started at 28 weeks. High blood pressure that her doctor monitored with increasing concern. Protein in her urine suggesting preeclampsia. Orders for bed rest that Amma ignored because sitting still meant thinking, and thinking meant drowning in what-ifs. You need to slow down, her mother commanded after finding Amma working at 2 a.m., laptop balanced on her enormous belly. The babies are fine. I'm fine. Everyone's fine. Amma's voice cracked on the lie. She wasn't fine. She was exhausted and terrified and so angry at Minho for making her love him, for making her believe he could be brave, for putting these babies inside her and then disappearing into his golden cage. At 30 weeks, her doctor delivered an ultimatum. The preeclampsia is worsening. I want you in Accra near Ridge Hospital where we have a NICU. No travel. No stress. These twins are coming early, Amma, and we need to be prepared. But a frantic call from her sole client changed everything. A massive account was imploding, contracts worth millions at risk, and Amma was the only consultant who understood the specific Korean regulations involved. They needed her in Seoul for 48 hours. Emergency visa. Business class ticket. Fees that could fund her twins' first year of life. You can't, her mother said flatly. The doctor said. I know what the doctor said. Amma was already booking the flight. But I can't turn down this money. Not when I'm raising twins alone. Not when every dollar matters. Your health matters more. I'll be careful. In and out. 2 days maximum. She touched her belly where the twins were performing their usual acrobatics. We'll be fine. It was the same lie she'd been telling herself for months, and this time, it almost killed her. The flight to Seoul was brutal. Swollen ankles, contractions that the flight attendants assured her were just Braxton Hicks, and the crushing irony that she was returning to the city where she'd been happiest and most devastated, carrying the evidence of both. She checked into a hotel near the client's office, ignored the way her reflection looked gray and exhausted, and told herself she could handle one meeting. One signature. One professional triumph to prove she was more than the woman Minho had abandoned. The meeting went well. The contracts were salvaged. Her client was effusive with gratitude and promises of future work. Amma made it to the hotel lobby before her vision started sparking at the edges. She felt the wetness first. Water breaking or blood, she couldn't tell, didn't matter. Then the pain, vice-like and wrong, her body screaming that the twins were coming now, 8 weeks too early, in a foreign country where she knew no one except the man who'd broken her heart. She tried to call her mother. Her hands were shaking too badly to dial. The hotel concierge called an ambulance, and Amma heard herself giving them information through the pane: name, age, gestational age, emergency contact. Emergency contact? The paramedic asked. And because her brain was short-circuiting with terror and her phone's autocomplete was still set to the sole number she'd never deleted, Amma heard herself say, Kwon Minho. He's… What? The father? The man who abandoned you? The person you swore you'd never call? But the paramedic was already entering the number, and Amma was losing consciousness, and the last thing she thought before the darkness took her was, please let our sons survive this. Even if I don't. Please let them live. The morning of his wedding, Kwon Minho woke up in his childhood bedroom and knew with absolute certainty that he was making a catastrophic mistake. But the machine was already in motion. 500 guests confirmed. Flowers worth more than most people's cars filling the Shilla Hotel ballroom. His mother's satisfied smile as she supervised the final details. His father's hand on his shoulder, heavy with expectation and triumph. Finally, the heir falls in line. Minho dressed himself in the Brioni tuxedo, each button a small surrender. Adjusted the platinum cufflinks his grandfather had worn at his own arranged marriage. Stared at his reflection and saw a ghost wearing his face. Seo-yun found him in the groom's suite an hour before the ceremony. You look like you're about to face a firing squad, she said, surprisingly gentle for someone whose own future was being decided by corporate merger. Last chance to run, Minho? I won't be offended. Where would I run to? Ghana, probably. She sat beside him, elegant in her pre-ceremony robe. I did some research on your consultant, Amankidia. She's brilliant. Published, respected, exactly the kind of woman who wouldn't tolerate being someone's shameful secret. Minho's throat closed. Seo-yun. I'm not angry. I'm actually a little jealous. She smiled sadly. I've never inspired that kind of love in anyone. The kind that makes a man look dead inside on his wedding day because he chose duty over his heart. It's too late now. She's gone. She made it clear she doesn't want anything from me. Then why do you still have her number saved under my love in your phone? Seo-yun gestured to the device on the table, its screen dark and silent. I saw it when you asked me to check your messages last week. You haven't changed it. You haven't deleted her contact. You're going through with this wedding, but you're still holding on to her like a lifeline. Because she was. Because for 9 months, Minho had told himself he could move forward while some part of him waited for Amma to call, to forgive him, to give him one more chance he absolutely didn't deserve. The guests are arriving, his assistant announced through the door. 30 minutes to ceremony start. Seo-yun stood, smoothed her robe. For what it's worth. I hope she calls. I hope she objects. I hope you get the courage you've been missing. She paused at the door. Because this marriage will be comfortable and profitable and absolutely devoid of the thing that makes life worth living. She left him alone with his cowardice and his expensive watch ticking down to forever. The ceremony was a blur of flash photography and forced smiles. Minho stood at the altar, Seo-yun walking toward him like a beautiful, resigned sacrifice. The officiant's voice droned through traditional vows about duty and partnership. His parents watched from the front row, victorious. Minho's phone should have been off. He'd meant to turn it off. But some self-destructive part of him had left it on vibrate in his inner jacket pocket, and when it buzzed against his ribs during the most sacred moment, his hand moved on instinct. Unknown international number. Seoul area code. Probably spam. He answered anyway. This is Kwon Minho. And the world detonated. Meanwhile, in the emergency room of Seoul National University Hospital, Amankidia was barely conscious. The ambulance had gotten her there with minutes to spare. Her blood pressure was dangerously high, 180/110 and climbing. The twins' heart rates were decelerating, indicating fetal distress. The ER team worked with controlled urgency, establishing 4 lines, administering magnesium sulfate, preparing for an emergency cesarean section. Patient is 32 weeks pregnant with dichorionic diamniotic twins, the attending OB barked to her team. Severe preeclampsia with features. We need to deliver now before this progresses to eclampsia or placental abruption. Do we have consent? A nurse asked, already knowing the answer was no. She's unconscious. No family in Korea. The doctor checked Amma's phone, found the emergency contact information. There's a Korean number listed. Someone named Kwon Minho. Try it. We need consent for the cesarean and NICU admission for the twins. The nurse dialed, not knowing she was about to interrupt a wedding. Not knowing the man on the other end was the father. Not knowing that this single phone call would give Minho the crisis he'd been too weak to create for himself. A forced choice with no room left for compromise or cowardice. The phone rang once. Twice. Then, "This is Kwon Minho. Mr. Kwon, this is Seoul National University Hospital, Labor and Delivery Emergency Department. We have a patient here, Almankidia." Everything else, the explanation about preeclampsia, about twin distress, about life or death decisions, came through a tunnel of white noise as Minho's brain tried to process the impossible. Amma. In Seoul. Pregnant. Twins. Dying. Need immediate consent for emergency cesarean section. Are you family, sir? We're running out of time. The ballroom full of witnesses. Seo-yun's face, confused. His father rising from his seat, sensing disaster. None of it mattered. Where is she? Minho heard himself ask, his voice destroyed. Seoul National, Jangnyeogu. Emergency obstetrics, 4th floor. Sir, we really need. Minho dropped the phone. He looked at Seo-yun, who nodded once, releasing him from his prison, and then he ran. His father's roar chased him through the ballroom. His mother's shriek of horror. Flash photography capturing his escape. 500 gasps as the Kwon heir abandoned his dynasty for the woman he should have chosen 9 months ago. Minho ran, and for the first time in his carefully orchestrated life, it felt like he was finally running towards something instead of away. The surgical team was already prepping Amma when Minho burst through the hors doors, still in his tuxedo, bow tie hanging loose, wedding boutonniere crushed against his chest. Sir, you can't be in here. A nurse moved to intercept him. I'm the father. Kwon Minho. You called me. His eyes found Amma on the table, unconscious, her skin ashen against the blue surgical drapes, monitors screaming warnings he didn't understand. Oh God, Amma. The attending physician, Dr. Park, assessed him in one sharp glance, wedding attire, desperate eyes, the father who'd apparently abandoned her showing up at the literal last second. Mr. Kwon, we need your signature on emergency consent forms immediately. Your partner has severe preeclampsia. The twins are in distress. Every minute we delay increases the risk of maternal seizure, stroke, or death. Do you understand? Yes. Where do I sign? A nurse thrust a clipboard at him, pages of medical jargon and liability waivers and consent for high-risk delivery. Minho's hands shook so badly he could barely hold the pen. Initial here for emergency cesarean section. Here for NICU admission for both infants. Here acknowledging the risks, potential hemorrhage, infection, need for blood transfusion. Just give me the forms. Minho was already signing, his signature, the same one that sealed billion-dollar contracts and corporate mergers, now authorizing strangers to cut open the woman he loved to save the children he'd never met. Whatever she needs. Whatever they need. Money is no object. Dr. Park's expression softened fractionally. It's not about money, Mr. Kwon. It's about time. And we're out of it. She turned to her team. Let's move. Get him scrubbed and gowned if he wants to be present. 2 minutes later, Minho sat beside Amma's head, a surgical mask covering his face, his hand gripping hers even though she couldn't feel it. A blue drape separated them from the surgery happening below, but he could hear everything, the calm medical commands, the hiss of cautery, the organized chaos of saving 3 lives simultaneously. Amma, he whispered, knowing she couldn't hear him but unable to stay silent. I'm here. I'm so sorry. I'm here now. Please don't leave me. Please let our sons be okay. First twin is breech, Dr. Park announced. Extracting now. A terrible, endless moment of silence. Then, a cry. Weak, angry, absolutely beautiful. Baby A, male, born at 10:47 a.m. 32 weeks gestational age. NICU team standing by. Minho tried to see through his tears and the surgical drape as a tiny, perfect human, red and wrinkled and fighting, was rushed to the warming table. His son. His first son, born 8 weeks early because Minho's cowardice had driven Amma away. Second twin is transverse. This is going to be tricky. Dr. Park's voice remained steady, but Minho heard the tension underneath. Manipulating now. Amma's blood pressure alarm shrieked. Numbers Minho didn't understand but knew were wrong flashed on the monitor. She's seizing! Someone shouted. Push magnesium. Hey, pause with me for just a second. If this story is gripping your heart, drop a comment telling me you're rooting for Amma and those babies. And hit subscribe. I need to know you're invested in seeing how this ends. Your support literally keeps these stories coming. Amma's body convulsed beneath the drapes. Minho's hand was crushed in the nurse's grip as they pulled him back, giving the team room to work. The organized chaos became desperate urgency. Medications pushed, commands shouted, the surgery that had been controlled suddenly teetering on the edge of catastrophe. I need that second baby out now, Dr. Park commanded. Before we lose her. Minho watched helplessly as they fought to save Amma and extract their second son, and understood with devastating clarity that this, all of this, was his fault. She'd been alone, terrified, working herself to exhaustion to provide for babies he should have been helping her carry. She'd come to Seoul out of desperate necessity, and collapsed because he'd left her no choice but to be superhuman. Second twin delivered. Baby B, male, 10:51 a.m. Another cry, stronger this time, furious at being born into a world of bright lights and medical equipment instead of his mother's warmth. Amma's pressure is dropping. Get more magnesium. Someone check for hemorrhage. Fundal massage now. The medical team worked with brutal efficiency, their hands literally inside Amma as they tried to stop bleeding Minho couldn't see but knew was life-threatening. His sons were crying from their warming tables, tiny voices demanding the mother who couldn't answer. Dr. Park looked up, met Minho's eyes over her mask. Mr. Kwon, her condition is critical. The next few minutes will determine whether we can stabilize her. I need you to decide, do you want to meet your sons or stay here? It was the cruelest choice. Miss his son's first moments, or leave Amma alone while she fought for her life. Will she know if I leave? No. She's unconscious. Then I'm staying. Minho moved back to Amma's side, gripped her hand with both of his. I left her once. I'm not doing it again. Save her. Please. I'll give you anything, the hospital, the equipment, my entire fortune, just save her. Dr. Park's eyes crinkled with something that might have been approval. We'll do our best. 27 minutes that felt like centuries. Minho talked to Amma's unconscious face, telling her about their sons, about how he'd run from his wedding, about how he'd been a coward but he was done now, he was here, he would spend the rest of his life earning her forgiveness if she just stayed. Finally, Dr. Park straightened. Bleeding is controlled. Pressure is stabilizing. She's not out of the woods yet, we're moving her to ICU for observation, but she's alive. Minho's legs gave out. He would have fallen if the nurse hadn't caught him. Your sons are in the NICU. Dr. Park continued, stripping off her gloves. 32 weeks is early, but they're breathing on their own. They're fighters. They get that from their mother. She paused. You can see them now, if you want. Minho looked at Amma, still unconscious, still pale as death but breathing. Then at the doors leading to the NICU where his sons waited. Can I see all three? His voice broke. My whole family? Dr. Park smiled, the first real warmth he'd seen from her. Let's make that happen. They wheeled Amma's bed to the NICU, let Minho stand between his unconscious love and the two tiny isolates containing the most perfect humans he'd ever seen. Identical faces, dark hair, skin that would probably tan to Amma's beautiful brown once they weren't so premature and red. They need names, a NICU nurse said gently. For their charts. Minho looked at his sons, At Amma, at the family he'd almost destroyed through cowardice. Kwame and Kofi, he said, remembering the Ghanaian names Amma had once mentioned. Kwame means born on Saturday. Kofi means born on Friday. But they were both born on Saturday, so we'll adjust, the nurse said kindly. Kwame and Kofi Kwon. Beautiful names. Kwame and Kofi Nkidia Kwon, Minho corrected. Their mother's name comes first. She earned it. He reached into both isolettes, let his son's tiny fingers wrap around his, and made a promise he should have made 9 months ago. I'm here now. I'm not leaving. Whatever it costs, whatever I have to sacrifice, you're my family. All 3 of you. And I'll spend the rest of my life proving I deserve to be yours. Outside the NICU, his phone exploded with messages. 47 calls from his father. Emergency board meetings. Lawyers threatening disinheritance. The wedding disaster trending on Korean social media. Minho turned off his phone and held his son's hands while Amma's chest rose and fell with stubborn, beautiful life. The empire could burn. Let it burn. He'd finally chosen the only kingdom that mattered. Amma woke 3 days later to find Minho asleep in the chair beside her bed, one hand still holding hers, dark circles under his eyes like bruises. You look terrible, she whispered, her voice raw from intubation. His eyes snapped open. For a moment he just stared at her like she might disappear, then his face crumpled with relief so profound it looked like pain. You're awake. Oh God, Amma, you're awake. Our sons? Perfect. Fighting. Breathing on their own. They're in the NICU but they're strong. He kissed her knuckles, his tears hot against her skin. Just like their mother. You came. I ran. From my wedding. In front of everyone. He laughed, broken and free. Seo-yun says to tell you congratulations on the twins and that she's filing the annulment paperwork herself because apparently even she's more courageous than I was. Amma's fingers tightened around his. Minho, what did you do? What I should have done 9 months ago. I chose you. I chose our family. Everything else can burn. And burn it did. The fallout was spectacular. Kwon Industries stock dropped 11% in 2 days as investors panicked over the abandoned merger. His father held a press conference disowning Minho publicly, announcing his cousin Jin-ho as the new heir. His mother's statement to the press was brief and brutal. We have no son. The media circus was relentless. Paparazzi camped outside the hospital. Think pieces about duty versus love, tradition versus modernity, the scandal of the Korean billionaire's secret black family. Some outlets were vicious, racist commentary about Amma, trapping him, conspiracy theories about her motives, speculation about whether the twins were even his. Minho read none of it. He spent 18 hours a day at the hospital, splitting time between Amma's recovery room and the NICU where Kwame and Kofi fought their way toward health. He learned to change diapers on babies smaller than his hand, to bottle feed them when Amma's milk came in but she was too weak to nurse, to hold their entire fragile bodies against his chest for skin-to-skin contact the nurses said was critical. You're good at this, Amma said one evening, watching him rock Kofi while Kwame slept against her chest. She was sitting up now, color returning to her face, the terrifying preeclampsia symptoms finally receding. I'm terrified at this. Same thing sometimes. She studied his face, the exhaustion and determination etched into every line. What happens now, Minho? When they discharge us? Your family's cut you off. The media's waiting for us to fail. Where do we even go? I have some money in accounts my father can't touch. Enough to start small. He met her eyes, vulnerable in a way he never allowed himself to be. I was thinking, Donna. If you'll have us, I could consult, build something ethical from the ground up like we used to talk about. No empire. No dynasty. Just honest work and the family I should have chosen from the beginning. You'd leave Korea? Everything you know? I'd leave everything twice over for a chance to be the father our sons deserve. The partner you need. His voice dropped. If you'll let me try. I know I don't deserve it, Amma. I know I failed you catastrophically. But I'm asking anyway, Let me prove I can be better. Let me earn my way back. Amma looked at their sons, at the man who'd finally found his courage in a hospital room, at the wreckage of what they'd been and the possibility of what they could become. One condition, she said. We do this as equals. No savior dynamics, no gratitude debts. I'm not some damsel you rescued. I'm the woman who survived your cowardice and raised our sons alone for the hardest part. You want to be my partner? Then actually be my partner. Yes. No hesitation. Whatever that looks like. However long it takes. She smiled then, tentative but real. Then welcome to fatherhood, Kwon Minho. Fair warning, it's harder than running a corporation. Good. I'm done with easy. 3 months later, Kwame and Kofi were healthy enough to travel. Minho and Amma flew to Accra with 2 car seats, 6 suitcases, and no plan beyond. Figure it out together. Amma's mother welcomed Minho with the same formidable assessment she'd given him over video chat a year ago. You're the one who made my daughter cry for months. Yes, ma'am. And now you're here to make it right? I'm here to try. Every day. For as long as she'll let me. Akojua studied him, the designer suit replaced with simple shirt and jeans, the corporate polish stripped away to reveal something more honest underneath. Finally, she nodded. Then you'll stay in the compound. East bedroom. You'll help with night feedings and laundry and cooking, because we don't raise passive fathers here. And you'll earn my daughter's trust the way everyone earns trust, through consistency, not grand gestures. I understand. Good. Now come meet your son's grandmother properly. Minho rebuilt his life from ash and intention. He started a small consulting firm focused on ethical investment frameworks in West African markets. Everything Amma had tried to teach him before his cowardice got in the way. The work was harder without his family's resources, the profit margins thinner, the clients less prestigious. But it was his, built on principles instead of exploitation, and that made it worth more than his father's empire ever had. Amma worked beside him, their partnership finally realized in both love and business. They argued about investment strategies and child-rearing philosophies and whose turn it was to wake up for the 3 a.m. feeding. They learned each other again, without the shadow of his family's disapproval, building something honest from the rubble of what they'd lost. 6 months after Accra, Minho proposed properly. Not with a family heirloom ring carrying 3 generations of obligation, but with a simple gold band he'd commissioned from a local artisan, inscribed with both their names in Korean and Akan. I can't promise you wealth or status or easy, he said, kneeling in her mother's garden while their sons napped inside. But I can promise you honesty. Partnership. A man who will choose you every single day for the rest of his life. Marry me, Amma. Not because of the twins or obligation, but because I love you and I want to build a legacy that actually matters. She said yes with tears streaming down her face, and they planned a wedding that honored both their worlds. The ceremony was held in Accra, a small gathering in a garden overlooking the ocean. Minho wore traditional Korean hanbok in deep blue. Amma wore Ghanaian kente cloth in vibrant gold and green, her natural hair crowned with flowers. Kwame and Kofi, now chubby and healthy, were held by their grandmother and aunt during the vows. They incorporated both cultures, a Korean paebik ceremony where Minho formally introduced Amma to ancestors who'd rejected her in life, and a Ghanaian libation ceremony honoring the joining of families across continents. It was small and imperfect, and absolutely beautiful. No cameras. No society pages. No father of the groom because Minho's father had maintained his silence, his pride more important than reconciliation. But Minho's mother came. She arrived unannounced 3 days before the wedding, standing at the compound gate looking smaller than Minho remembered, her designer handbag incongruous against Accra's dusty streets. I came to meet my grandsons, she said, her voice formal but fractured. If you'll allow it. Minho looked at Amma, who nodded once, her choice, her grace. Come in, he said. His mother wept when she held Kwame and Kofi, when she saw how they had Minho's eyes and Amma's nose, when she understood what her pride had cost her. She apologized to Amma with words that sounded rusty from disuse, asked permission to attend the wedding, promised to work on her father. It may take time, she admitted. He's stubborn. And proud. And wrong. Then take the time, Amma said. But know that we're not waiting for his approval to be a family. We already are one. At the wedding, Miho's mother sat in the second row, crying quietly through the entire ceremony. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was the beginning of something. 2 years later, Kwame and Kofi took their first steps on the same day, racing toward their father in the courtyard while Amma watched, pregnant again, this time with a daughter they'd already named Abina. Miho's consulting firm had grown slowly but successfully. His relationship with his mother had healed into something honest if still complicated. His father remained distant, but Miho had stopped waiting for validation that might never come. Any regrets? Amma asked one evening, watching him read bedtime stories to their sons in a mixture of Korean and English. Just one, Miho said. That I didn't choose this sooner. That I wasted 9 months being afraid when I could have been here, with you, building this. Well, you're here now. That's what matters. He pulled her close, their daughter kicking between them, their son's laughter echoing through the compound, and thought about the empire he'd abandoned and the kingdom he'd gained. No regrets. Not anymore. He'd finally built a legacy worth inheriting. The end. Before you go, I need to tell you something personal. You just spent the last however many minutes with me, following Miho and Amma's journey from that devastating phone call to their hard-won happiness. And if you're still here, reading this, that means something to you. That this story grabbed you, made you feel something, maybe even made you believe in second chances. Here's the thing. My ex told me I'd never make it creating stories like this. She said YouTube was oversaturated, that romance and drama content doesn't perform, that I was wasting my time trying to build a channel from scratch. She said I didn't have what it takes to grow an audience, to connect with people, to make this dream work. And then she left. But you're still here. So I have some questions for you. Where are you watching/reading from right now? I want to know how far this story traveled. Drop your city or country in the comments. Let me see this community we're building together. What did you think of Miho's journey? Was he redeemable after what he put Amma through? Could you forgive him? Or did he wait too long? I genuinely want your take. And here's the big one. Would you have answered that phone call at the altar? Be honest. Would you have run, or would you have stayed? What would it take for you to abandon everything for love? If this story moved you, if you felt Amma's pain, if you celebrated when Miho finally chose right, if you teared up when those twins were born, then do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Not just for me, but to prove that stories about love and courage and choosing right even when it costs you everything actually matter. That creators who pour their hearts into this work deserve a shot. Every subscriber is you telling my ex she was wrong. Every comment is you saying, this content matters. Every share is you helping me build something real from nothing but passion and caffeine and the stubborn belief that good storytelling can find its audience. Comment below with where you're watching from, globe showing Europe, Africa. Whether Miho deserved his happy ending. If you'd answer that altar phone call. Subscribe to prove that dream chasers and storytellers and people who refuse to give up can actually make it. Let's build this together. Let's show the world that when you create something real, people show up. Welcome to the family. Now let's prove everyone wrong.